right, hi everyone. Good morning. That mostly just means I'm professionally obsessed with how things feel. It's not just does it look good, did we solve the brief, it's does it give you goosebumps. That's the power of craft. And honestly, that's the game we're all playing. Trying to get people to care, to click, to trust, to feel something in a world that's pretty good at tuning things out. Which is why I love this conversation. And before we could jump into it, just to ground ourselves, I'd love to have you guys introduce yourselves. So if you could just state your name, your role, and what you focus on in your work.
Hi everyone, I'm Teo Connor, and I'm VP for Design at Airbnb. I focus a lot on craft and design, and I am responsible for the Airbnb app and all of the digital platform. I'm also a Londoner, so I'm excited to be here with everyone today in London.
Hello everybody. My name's Paul Marsden. My craft, I'm a psychologist, so my job helps people hopefully understand what the hell's going on in their life and their relationships.
Awesome. So let's open up with the simplest and maybe the hardest question, which is, what is craft? Let's start with you, Taylor.
Ooh. It suddenly dawned on me that we're here at the D&AD with a lot of craftspeople and creatives who have probably a lot of opinions about craft. What is it? I mean, I think like at its most basic, it's making something, creating something with skill, you know. But when I think about craft, a lot of it is about kind of a signal of care. And it's sort of craft is you caring about the details, caring about the experience that the recipient of this thing has when they interact with the thing that you've created, caring that it's good, caring to take the time to make it better, and caring about, is this thing going to be memorable, lasting? So I think for me, craft is one of the big things that craft is about. It's about care.
That's awesome. Paul, what is it? What do you think craft is communicating today?
I think, well, as a psychologist, we tend to kind of simplify things. You probably all know the trick that, 80, you can all, just by seeing a couple interact with 5-10 minutes, you can predict with 80% accuracy whether they're going to be together in the next 10 years, because we're kind of hardwired. And there's just like one little thing you need to look for. And you either know it intuitively or you know it explicitly. It's like whether there's respect between the two individuals. So, and that's amazing. So we kind of, psychologists, we reduce that. It's all about respect, couples. When it comes to craft, it's the same. It's exactly as Tio was saying. It's like, what is craft psychologically? It is two things. It is embodying and expressing, as Tio says, care. That you have put care into building something. Not just care for the thing itself, but also care for the person that's going to be using it. The other thing that's super important with craft is competence, that you're actually smart. It's actually good. The thing does what it's supposed to do, that you're smart. And those two things, care and competence, just like respect in relationships, care and competence are incredibly important as human beings. Whenever you meet somebody, the first time the first time you've seen me, seen Tio, and you will be asking, you will intuitively ask two questions. It's like, well, can this person help me with what I'm doing in life? Are they competent? And then secondly, you'll ask yourself, do they care? Do they care about me? Do they have my best intentions? Are they caring about me? And we make this snap decision, competence and caring, to judge people, to judge people in an instant. And we make snap decisions. So competence and caring is about craft, and that's what craft is. But it's also fundamentally how we see each other. We make this intuitive decision. We thin slice, as psychologists sometimes talk about it. And this is care and competence. Can they help me? Do they want to help me? And when you do craft, you're signaling those two things. To get to your question, it's that signaling, but also embodying, caring. I've taken care about this. There's emotional labor gone into this. I'm actually care about what the other person wants, and I'm actually really good at it. Sometimes we're really good at stuff, but we don't have people's best interests at heart, which be wary of those kind of people. And sometimes, like your grandmother, she really cares about you for something, but she may not be really competent in fact for AI or whatever. So it's like you want that golden triangle of competence and care. And when you've got that, you get admiration, you get love, you get trust, you get all these wonderful things. And so craft is actually a trust mark or a love mark.
I actually love that because it speaks to to value. You know, I don't know if whenever you've had something and you know it's like really well made, or you pick it up and you're like, oh my God, I love this thing, and you then hold on to it, you keep it, you don't discard it. And you know, we were talking about sort of the luxury bags, Birkin bags. We were talking about Hermes and the craftsmanship that goes into a lot of their bags, and you know that feeling of when something, you know that it's been well made, or it's time has gone into it, and you feel that you want to keep on to it. It's got value versus maybe something that hasn't had the same craft care and attention put into it. You sort of it could be discarded more easily.
And human care is finite. So I think your point about time, incredibly important, because it's the time somebody's put into it that they actually care about it. You know, you're all born with 3 billion heartbeats, and where are you going to invest them? You're going to invest them in other people or in tasks. A craftsman or craftswoman will invest time, their precious 3 billion heartbeats, in actually making something for you, and it's that value and the time they've given it. And so there's something really important about your point about the time that somebody has dedicated their attention, their emotional labor they've put into making something for you.
If I had $1 for every Apple box I still have in my home that I unboxed it, it just whispers this matters, and it really, every little detail has been taken care of. So moving on to how it's hard to express sometimes when something feels well crafted. It's something, a lot of times it's just a gut instinct. It feels right. It moves me. It elicits that emotion I'm looking for. But how do we recognize, how do we feel it, how do we perceive it? What are we responding to when we are feeling craft?
Psychologically, at least, it is these two signals. I'm going to be super reductive here because it's like psychology. It's kind of care and competence. It's signaling that it's like what is it? Somebody's taken. They've bothered. They've given the time to care about it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. They've thought about it and they've used their competence to build something of value. So we intuitively think. Sometimes it might be the little things that we don't notice. My God, somebody's actually thought about it. You talk about the unboxing with the Apple. Goodness knows how much people, how much this has been sort of engineered. But it's just a lovely experience because it's thought about. It's those little details.
It's almost like a host mentality. When you're inviting someone, a guest, you want to make sure that the experience is catered and thought of, and every detail is considered. How about you, Teo?
So I've kind of weirdly got really into clocks. It started with a trip to Istanbul, and I went to one of the palaces there, and they had a collection of clocks that had been given to the various kind of royals that had lived there. And they're kind of amazing things, so intricate, and you look at all the detail, and you look at all the engineering, and then you look at when they were made, and the medieval clocks, and this combination of wanting to kind of show the understanding and power to others through craft, kind of demonstrating knowledge, and then also decoration and beauty, and using very precious materials, and some of these clocks took multiple years to make, and here they are, and you can go and look at them, and they still are I look at them and I think, oh my gosh, they're so magical. Imagine figuring out how to do that. Imagine how hard it must have been to do it. And so that feeling of kind of the joy of interacting or seeing something that is high craft, and even actually just craft, something that can be really simple, like a simple carving, and you look at it and you're like, oh, that was carved really beautiful. It's really simple, and there's care in that as well. So the feeling the joy of craft, I think, is
There's almost a
beautiful.
discovery, isn't it? Isn't it? When you're looking at the clock, the craftsmanship, it's taking you somewhere that you cannot go. And we know, you all know you're all creatives. You all know the definition of creativity. It's something that's novel, something that's valuable, and something that's surprising. And it's that kind of surprise factor that you'll discover. My God, they thought of that. I would never have thought of that myself. And you kind of get it's almost like a borrowed eureka experience that somebody's actually. God, they've really even thought about that. And that's where you get that. This has been crafted. This has not just been manufactured.
You guys bring up a theme around almost around listening around taste, and I'm curious when you think about taste, someone's ability to appreciate something. Is that something we're born with? Is it something that we build over time? How do we get to the place where we are these sponges that can absorb and recognize and have a radar for good craft?
Ooh. I bet Paul's got like the best answer for this. I don't know. I don't want to go up against Paul on this. I mean, I feel like there's probably some like innate sort of human universal understanding of some of the you know visual or sensory expressions of craft,
Hmm.
and that we can all look at something and could look at a medieval clock and be like, wow, that's high craft, and there's some signals there. So yes, I think I think we are all born with some way of reading what is good taste. Obviously, taste is going to be different culturally in different places, and so what I might think is good taste, someone else might think is poor taste, and so there's some innate things maybe, and then some things that kind of change depending on who you are and where you're from.
It feels like it
100%.
evolves over
I mean,
time too. Yeah.
I can tell what Theo says in psychobabble, but you basically said it all. But there are, there's a whole psychology and neuroscience of aesthetics, and there are certain things, golden ratios and things we find pleasing, human form to some degree, hip to waist ratio or chest to waist ratio, and there are facial symmetry. There's things that we find fairly universal. There seems to be human concepts, but it's massively biased by our culture. And so some things that will be fabulous taste in the 1970s will not be fabulous taste in the 2020s, and some things will be great taste in one age in Southeast Asia will be poor taste over here. So it's a mixture of the two, which is where as a psychologist I come back, what makes us good at understanding taste, just as now hopefully you are all experts in relationship. You could all be relationship therapists because you know that one thing to look for, respect in people. You also know what actually makes good craft. It's signaling and embodying care and competence, and so we can be really good at understanding the essence of what taste is by actually looking at this. It's a good taste if it's having a positive impact on people. It's showing that this person cares and this person is smart, the two fundamental social dimensions on which we evaluate humans and life in general.
It's interesting as well when you think about taste, because there's also, I think you could look at something and know that that a lot of care had gone into it, and it was, good craft, and not necessarily feel that it was your taste. And
Yeah.
so that's an interesting kind of...
Yeah, where it disappears. It might be not your taste, but the care's gone. And they're actually kind of good at what they do, but
Yeah.
it's like, that's just not me.
Yeah, sometimes when something's done imperfect, we actually appreciate it more because we appreciate the human touch in it. That could lead me to the next topic that I'm sure everyone's a little sick of, but as tools get smarter, as they get more advanced, I think what we're all wondering is what aspects of craft will remain distinctly human.
I mean, I feel like everything we've talked about here, I feel like, craft is deeply human.
Yeah.
And you think about like early humans before, we had maybe the language, the words to express ourselves, and, we've got amazing examples of cave paintings and sculptures, and just like this need to communicate through making things and sharing things and
personal expression.
connecting. And I think that that's just so deeply human, that craft is always going to be primarily driven by humans and that need that we have just innate within us. I'm speaking for you now. Maybe you can say if this is true or not, but
No,
it's innately within us that we want to communicate. Human connection is so important, and craft is a sort of a vessel or a mechanism for that.
I might be fairly redundant. Just listen to Tio because it's like I'm doing psychodabble again. But for me, it's just the difference is that the human bit is this 9 billion, or sorry, 3 billion rather. You're kind of 3 billion heartbeats you get born with. When you can manufacture, you can automate. When you get AI that can do stuff, it doesn't. There's no cost to it. And it's the cost in terms of the heartbeats that you use, that you invest to make something valuable. So there's lots of studies out there now. There's a really depressing study if you're a psychologist. They put ChatGPT up against 100 psychologists and it's like, which is the best therapist? It was a blind study. And like 100% of people said it was ChatGPT. It's like not good if you're a psychologist right now. However, they're not taking off. And my hope is, I think, is that when you work with a therapist or a psychologist, then it's that they are investing part of their 3 billion heartbeats in you as an individual. It doesn't cost the AI. The AI can be the therapist to absolutely everyone. But when you're speaking with someone, when you've got a craftsperson that has made something for you, or you've got a psychologist in my craft, investing you in a person, it's actually costing me part of my 3 billion heartbeats. And so it's valuable. And so I think this is all just psychobabble. So what Tio's saying, it is that human element is what is
right.
that
It's not just
essential
about making,
to craft.
it's about meaning something. It's about,
It's about costing something.
yeah, and feeling seen, feeling connected, feeling that human connection. Awesome. I would love to move on a little bit towards like storytelling and the audience and where we want to be in the story and where we try to put the audience when we're crafting around an idea for them. So, when you're launching a new product, and, experience is congratulations, it's a great launch. What are you thinking about? Where are you putting them in the story? Are they the hero? Are they the friend? Are they the villain? Where do you try to place them so that you can embody what they're truly trying to unlock?
I mean, I think like when I'm thinking about like craft as this very human thing and this thing that's sort of, it's our way to communicate many different things and we're all using it in different ways. I think it's sort of, it's about us being able to say, yeah, like here's something that's beautiful, it's joyful, or it's it's opinionated, and you can then connect with different communities, and you can bring people in to say, yeah, I believe in that too. I connect with you. That resonates with me. So I think like craft becomes this like tool for social kind of like resonance and
alignment.
yeah, and you can say, I'm aligned with this. I'm not aligned with that, and it's just that's part of the storytelling piece. So I don't know about like whether we're sort of placing people as like the hero or the villain or anything like that. But I think that craft and saying that we cared about something and saying that having the courage to put something out as well, I think like that also resonates with people.
That's a big thing we haven't really touched on is like that effort and like the hours, but like really believing in something and putting yourself on the line, taking a risk and trying something.
And if you engage with something, you're sort of saying like, yeah, I believe in it. I have a thought about this, or I don't believe in it, and like that kind of craft and design, being able to kind of open up a discussion and a debate. Like I just think that's like awesome, and something that we'll all like continue to do, especially in this audience.
Where do people like to be psychologically in the story?
Well, nobody wants to be an NPC. No, no. Like, you want to be actually the hero of your own story. And I think that's where, from at least the psychology perspective, is where empathy matters. And it's like, it is so not about the customer journey. If you're building around customer journeys, you've kind of got it wrong. If you're making me go on a journey to get through your bloody experience, it's the wrong way. It's like, be part of my life. So I'm the center, you're the prop, and you're helping me in my life. And so that empathy of understanding people's story, their own narrative, their life narrative, and embedding yourself meaningfully in their narrative, not your bloody customer experience or bored customer journey, but actually their lives and how you fit and create value for them. That's so it's their story that's important. Which is why Airbnb is so cool, because we bring to life our lives and our habitat, our homes, and you're walking into somebody's life story. You're literally walking into their set, and so understanding that is fabulous, because you get to play a new role. It's kind of cool.
And that's what I love about the work that we do with you, where we basically put, someone right at the center of a choice. They can choose something that's culturally aligned, something that's novel, something that's new that only they feel like they could find, or something that's been, done before and is very expected and maybe fabricated. So it's always fun to put people right in that tension moment and see what they choose.
I love as well this idea of just always reminding yourself that, everyone's kind of is thinking about themselves. And like not to like always remember that. Like people do care about you, but not as much as they care about themselves and what they're trying to do in their day, and always remembering that. And when you're putting things in front of people, recognizing that they're doing something in that moment, and so like make sure that it's good. If you're going to break into someone's day and
100%.
into their life, make sure that the thing that you're putting in front of them is good, so that it like matters and it can break through. Otherwise, what is the point?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, the most probably, I like using it because it's overused, toxic concept we have in marketing communications, the idea of brand love. If anybody in this room is in love with a trademark, I urgently, as a chartered psychologist, I urgently recommend you seek professional help. It's like, no, love is about people. It's not about bloody trademarks. And so, that human bit is like, if we're going to the permission to get into people's lives and to actually understand their life story and be part of that and be willing to be modest enough to be a prop, hopefully a valuable prop in that, to make their lives more meaningful, enriching, and hopefully happier, then that's the way to do it. But this kind of idea like brand love is like, you just like to say, people just don't care. It's like, take a reality pill. They don't.
For all the craftspeople that are like designing amazing brands, brand logos, I think like the love is definitely there. But yeah, it's always like always remembering that people just want to get on with their lives.
I get so frustrated when we talk about like B2B communication, and we do a lot of that, and there's a human on the other side of that phone. There's someone who's picking up, getting coffee, going to work that day, and they get an email and you're speaking to them like a business. It's not gonna resonate. It's not gonna connect. I'm curious what you guys think about mimicry a little bit. So thinking of AI can mimic aesthetics. It can do it fast. It can create a vibe very quickly. But can it make something that feels real and authentic and something that really connects?
I think it's AI is great, and we're sort of just like figuring out how we're going to use it. Think about like those medieval clockmakers to mention them again, but they were like figuring out astronomy and learning how to like make tools to wield new materials, and we're sort of doing like our version of that now with AI, and so who knows where we're going to take it. But it is very good at making something look high craft, and it's this surface level. And I do think that, and it might change over time, but at this current moment we're all very good at like recognizing that even when something's made with AI and it can present as like perfect, we see something wrong with it, And then there's the piece about, the care and the heartbeats and the time that's put into something. When you see like a proliferation of something, you see loads of it, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's kind of doesn't have value, and therefore I can like enjoy it for a moment, but then I discard it. And I think the business of craft is really about trying to create things that are lasting, and that you want to keep around, and you want to look back on and say, oh, that's still cool or interesting now. And I think that takes more than just making something really quickly.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think it comes down to it's philosophical almost. You might have heard of the story of Mary, the colour scientist, and so it's a fabulous story that answers your question. So Mary, the colour scientist. Imagine, if you will, Mary. She's a colour scientist, but she lives in a black and white world. She studies the colour blue. She's never seen the colour blue, but she knows the wavelengths. She knows everything about it. She spent a whole life studying the colour blue. But she's never actually seen it, but she knows everything about it. Now imagine Mary pops out into our wonderful Technicolor world and she sees blue for the first time. Does she learn anything new? And that's the essence of whether or not I think AI can actually, if it mimics perfectly what we do, if it talks, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, etc., is it actually a duck? Or is there something innate in that human experience, that subject experience of the color blue, of the craft, of the Airbnb experience that is innately human that can't be? And yeah, philosophers will debate on it. I mean, it will depend on where you are on the Mary the colour scientist. I mean, it's a philosophical conundrum that it depends where you come down on it. So I don't know the actual answer to it, but I like to think that Mary does discover something, even if she knows everything about the colour blue, when she actually sees it, experiences it for the first time.
That's awesome. All right, we're getting towards the end here, so I have one question for you, Teo. Is there a pixel that kept you up one night? The ones that they almost feel like they're haunting, the ones that don't go away.
A pixel.
Yeah, a pixel.
Oh gosh. I mean, gosh. There's so many things, there's so many projects, and so many pieces of work that have taken a lot of my heartbeats, to be honest with you. Not least the work that we've just launched as a company. I think all of it, if you're in the business of design and craft and you really believe in it, and I think anyone who's in this room and is at the D&AD, I would say is in that cohort of trying to make brilliant things. I mean, sometimes we make, everyone's going to do some dud stuff, like do stuff that they didn't put their full heart into. But most of the time, we're all, trying to create great things that people say are good and care about. And so, I actually think back to early in my career when I used to be doing some artworking of print and working through the night, going page by page and pixel by pixel and looking at something and making sure that it was perfect and everything was aligned and where it should be. And I like that. I apply that to everything. So yeah, there's no single pixel, but all the pixels that I've looked at and all the materials and all the thinking. I should say as well, I think craft, we're sort of talking about it in terms of maybe digital and physical, but I also think about it in terms of words and the folks in the room that are writers and how the changing one word in a sentence can make such a huge difference to the comprehension of it, and in the same way that changing a pixel or a color can to a piece of work. So no singular pixel, but all of it, all of my heartbeats.
Paul, I've got one for you. Craft should always blank, but never blank.
Oh my God.
It's like a quiz.
Surprising, yes.
Craft should always signal care and never screw up people's lives. I think it's that positive effect. We're kind of like, it's like it's the care and competence. It's together. It's like having a positive impact. Sort of. I'm a real big fan of your happiness as your business model. We're here to kind of people's 3 billion heartbeats to try and make them a little more positive, and that's what we do. And I think if you undermine that, if you waste people's heart, so what should never do, waste people's heartbeats. They're precious. You've only got 3 billion of them. Use them properly and wisely and in an enriching way.
Thank you, guys. So yeah, what I love about this talk is it wasn't about specs or about software or about, it was about people. It was about looking around and feeling what we notice, what we feel, what matters, what still matters, and the guts of like putting everything into something, trying your hardest, like really going the extra mile, putting all those heartbeats into it, the pride we feel of that accomplishment, and the hope that it connects and lands. Because crafts isn't really about tools, it's about having emotional instinct, I guess, right? And putting yourself in the shoes of your audience, of the people that you want to receive this message and connect with, and anticipating how they're going to feel, and treating every detail like
and that's what people buy. It's the person behind the pixel.
Yep.
People buy the person behind the pixel. And that's important. That's what makes all your work really valuable, because they're not buying the pixel. It's that human connection behind it. It's like, we're all born alone. You're all probably going to die alone, and we spend the 3 billion heartbeats trying desperately not to be alone. And when you have an experience and you're connecting people, it's the person behind the pixel.
And treating every detail and pixel like a first impression. Well, thank you. This has been wonderful. I could talk to you guys all day long, but our time is up.
Oh.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much,
Thank you, everybody.